So today's speech is around digital transformation and broadband access, primarily broadband access. I read a quote from digital transformation that it's the profound transformation of business and organizational activities, processes, competencies and models. So a bit of a mouthful, but what we can see is the pace of change and the accelerating pace of change is dramatic in the broadband area. So just to take you back, in 1973, Kodak cameras had over 110,000 employees. It was in business over 100 years. With digital cameras and phones, it struggled with the marketplace. Then came Facebook in 2004. In 2010, Instagram joined the market and killed off the photo industry. In 2012, Kodak filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. So you can see the impact of pace of disruption. If you look at the model here, it took TV and radio 38 years to reach 50 million users worldwide. TV, 13 million users worldwide. And if you see, Twitter took less than a year to reach 50 million users. Facebook obviously has over 2.2 billion users now, but at the time it took them 1 year to get 50 million users. So a dramatic change in terms of pace of disruption. Again, further re-emphasizing the point, Pokemon Go is the augmented reality game, was launched in May 2016. Within 1 month, it had signed up over 50 million users and now has over 800 million users. It is a declining game, but the dramatic shift in the pace of disruption is enormous. So how we live, how we communicate, how we work has profound implications for all business communities. If I take you to infrastructure and the importance of infrastructure in broadband access, I'll give you an example was at the turn of the 19th century, travelling from London to the west of England, it was accessed through a town called Marlborough, so it had a population of 10,000. Swindon was a neighbouring town at the time with a similar type population of 10,000. Swindon secured the train access to the infrastructure and became the connecting point from London to the west of England. Today, Swindon has over 200,000 people, and Marlborough hasn't actually moved in terms of population growth. So you can see the importance of gaining critical access to infrastructure at the right time in order to support growth in your economies. I just want to take you back to 1992. And this is where we started. So for some people in the audience, notably yourself, you won't actually remember some of this, but I'll just turn this up for a second and we might be able to play this. But this was the sound that would have reached us when we were accessing the internet. That was the world. Who remembers? There must be some people who remember. So that's the way it was. Now the world has thankfully changed, and we've come a long way since 1992, and Ireland Online is the first one. The speed of the broadband connection truly defines your productivity as a business and as a home user. Just to give you a context of what that means in terms of speed and the download speeds. To download a movie of a 4.75 gig movie, it takes 38 seconds on a gigabit connection, which are available now. A VDSL connection, which is your standard, people call it fibre to broadband, it's 15 minutes, 39 seconds to download that movie. And if you're on an ADSL connection, an ADSL, of which there is over 300,000 people in Ireland still on ADSL connections, it would take you 10 hours and 26 minutes to download that movie. So if your competitor has access to better technology than you are going to be in a far lesser position in terms of winning in the marketplace. They win and you lose is the key thing. McKinsey's a consultancy to the firm that people may know it's indicated that a doubling of your broadband speed has a 0.5% increase in our GDP as a country. So it has a massive implications. Just in terms of downloading and access to the cloud, obviously the world has moved into the cloud in terms of services. The same scenario, if you were online backing up all your stuff of the 60 gigabit connection of storage file, on gigabit fibre it'll take 11 minutes 26 seconds to do. Again, with 500,000 or 600,000 people, they would have do it in 16 hours 40 minutes in Ireland. And if you're unlucky enough to be ADSL connection switch over 300,000 or 400,000 people have, it will take you 347 hours 13 minutes and 20 seconds to download. So it ain't working. You need, in order to exist on the cloud, you need access to broadband in order to do that. If I want to just take you through, so what the demand drivers, I often hear people say, I have 30 megs, I'm fine, my broadband works. So I want to just take you on a little journey into the future, and a very, very 12, 24 month journey of the future of what's likely to happen coming up that will actually force you to reconsider that. The biggest driver probably is video. 90% of all information transmitted to our brains is visual. 80% of what they see is what they buy, and 20% of what they read, but only 20% of what they read. So what we've seen, I think, in terms of internet usage is people are obviously using video as the core mechanism to communicate. That means they are uploading everything from personal videos, business videos. Our news has become consumed in terms of video technology, and video information is the way we're doing it. And then the key platforms, all the major global social platforms, are all driven by social media or video in that particular aspect. So the demand for video is probably the key driver in terms of broadband access. What's important on broadband access then is the quality of that video. Consumer demands for higher levels of quality is ever increasing. I think in terms of people, anyone that has HD or UHD services via Sky or via watching TV, it's very difficult when you get high definition or ultra high definition to have that, and then to move back to a standard definition. So you can very much see the quality of that technology is important. But what we are seeing is 4K TV drives 25 megabits per second is what you require to do it. For 4K TV, our phones are now capable of 4K TV. People have on average 3 smart devices per person in Ireland at the moment. So if you have 3 or 4 people in the house, you can see how multiple sessions of a Netflix or multiple sessions of any kind of activity like that using video on demand will dramatically increase your requirement for video or for broadband. Coupled to that, virtual reality is fast becoming mainstream, moving away from the test world. If I could just quote some figures, in 2014, global revenues for virtual reality were a measly 94 million quid, so very small at that particular space. In 2018, it's projected to be 5.2 billion. So we are seeing exponential growth in terms of virtual reality services. By 2022, it's estimated to be 45 billion. In order to do a virtual reality session, so if you had the gloves and you want to do an online video or an online game and that kind of stuff, you actually need 500 megs of access. So the current levels of service in Ireland are sub 30 megs at the moment. So your requirement for fibre broadband, full FTTP gigabit broadband is a huge requirement. So I just want to take you to how Ireland is doing in this particular world and how we're performing. The European Commission opens up with the Digital Economy Society Index. So oddly enough, it doesn't feel like it sometimes, but Ireland is actually doing quite well in terms of its digital economy. Within Europe, it's rated as the 6th best country in terms of digital progression in the index. Denmark, Sweden, Finland, and Netherlands are above them. In terms of connectivity, we are 11th out of 29 countries. So we're actually not doing too bad. However, there's a significant growth in terms of we're competing on a global scale. So we are competing with countries like South Korea, Japan, Hong Kong, who have vastly superior broadband speeds than us. So Ireland ain't doing too bad, but it has a long road to travel to be strong. If I could just show you what's actually happening in Ireland at the moment, these stats are taken from the regulator of Ireland in terms of Comreg. In terms of business, at the moment, business, only 8% of users get more than 100 megs plus. So if you see some of the trends that are coming down the road within 24, 36 months in terms of virtual reality and your capability of that, only 8% of the population actually gets access at a business level to that level of speed. The majority of people are within the 30 to 100 meg space. So something's got to change in terms of businesses competing and being well positioned for the future. A recent survey by IE Domain Registry indicated that 14% of people rate their connection as poor or very poor from SMEs. And of them, 20% of SMEs actually aren't even online due to their poor connectivity. So it's a real life challenge for many companies in terms of competing on a local level and at an Irish level and even at a global level to gaining access to infrastructure. But there is encouraging signs in terms of our progression. This next slide references the Gigabit Society. So Gigabit Society is really your ability to gain access to 1,000 gigabits of service. Ireland in 2018 was a new entrant in September 2017. It was the first one there in terms of 1.7% of the country had access to a gigabit technology. So you can see that we've started to progress in terms of that. Heavy Reading indicate that a country to be considered fibre mature requires 20% of the users to be connected to a full fibre technology. So we have a long road to travel in terms of that. But even since this report was issued only 6 months ago, 1.7, Ireland has moved up to about 3.5% of the country having FTTP full fibre gigabit technology within their homes or their businesses. So we're definitely making dramatic increases. Last year, the fibre market, which SIRO is part of, grew by 419%. So it's gone from a small level and certainly ramping up dramatically, but it's definitely having progress on that. So there is improvement on the way. So what's next in terms of progress? I think there's a couple of trends happening in business that are going to be hugely important to your requirement to have strong infrastructure and broadband access. The evolution of the workplace. The quote says, working from home is no longer just a lifestyle choice, it's now a national imperative. If you look at the averages in terms of European, the average commute times is, round trip is 30 kilometers per hour. It's referenced that if everyone had worked just 1 day a week at home, congestions on roads and mass transit would decrease by 20%. So the requirement for people to work from a home environment rather than just as a lifestyle choice is gone. It's now becoming a standard that we need to make happen. For businesses, that means less office space required, increased productivity, and I think in many cases more happier teams because they have better standards and lifestyle choices. I think in terms of further trends, in terms of business fluid workplaces, we've definitely seen increasing number of small business owners move to on-demand workers, contract working type environments where people are happy to work on particular contracts for a period of time and then move on to the next. In those environments, they need access to internet. That's their key component in terms of doing their job because they require incredible flexibility and in a way that they can afford. Artificial intelligence. I'm no expert in all of artificial intelligence, but it's definitely the case that small businesses are in a position now with artificial intelligence to automate mundane administrative tasks and unlock customer insights. The smart cities, competition among cities has entered a new dimension. Large cities need to become smart to manage growth. Smaller communities need to become smart to retain population and enhance opportunities. So we're seeing a significant change in terms of that. I just go on to conclusions. The European Commission has indicated that by 2025, all European households should have, whether they're rural or urban, need to have access to at least 100 megs of access within Ireland. So you take it back from where we were before. That's significant progress required for Ireland as a country to get there. So I'll give you an idea of where Ireland is in terms of gigabit society. So currently there is 1.3 million fixed broadband subscribers in Ireland. Of those, 14% of the country has access to full gigabit technology based on the build-outs of AIR and SIRO. So that's a significant progress. As I said, 1.7% of those are connected. But the 5-year forecast in terms of what's happening in terms of 5-year forecast, one, the market will grow to 1.69 million subscribers, but over 50% of the country will be able to access gigabit technology. So within 5 years, we're going to see a transformational sea change in terms of our capability as a country. Our anticipation is that 25% of those countries, of those people will be able and actually be live on the networks at that particular time. So I think just to conclude, just a couple of points in terms of conclusion. I think it's clear demand is increasing and services are expanding rapidly. Ireland is connectivity has a long way road to travel, but its connectivity is improving. We're definitely on the road to recovery. This is definitively the key point of the speech: is fibre broadband will define the success of communities and towns across Ireland. If certain communities don't get access to broadband, they will actually die as areas. They need access to it in order to support economic growth and population stability. Finally, I would say, or I'd urge businesses to support local communities to ensure the connectivity challenge, and really the opportunity is there in terms of broadband access. Thank you.